Thank you so much for watching, listening. I really appreciate getting to have time with you today. And of course, I would welcome you to subscribe because really, this channel has fantastic content. And if for nothing else, the jokes are super magnificent. We all know better than that. But we're continuing our series called Growing in Christ. And this series is grounded in Ephesians 4, verses 20 through 24. And so in the first episode, we talked about learning Christ and how we stay in continual student mode, that I'm always learning, I'm always growing. I am very teachable and trainable. The second episode we talked about was put off and put on. And Paul talks about that in verse 22, put off the old man, and verse 24, put on the new man. But last week I kind of hopefully baited you, whetted your appetite, because I talked about a verb that's in the middle of put off and put on. Because if all we're doing is behavior modification, don't do these things, do these things, if that's it, then it's tricky to sustain that. And what makes us any different? Because lots of world religions, lots of philosophies talk about, doing the right thing. And it's behavior, it's about behaviors, what we do, and it's transactional. But this is a really important verb that's in the middle of put off and put on. And this is in verse 23. And Paul says this, that you be renewed in the spirit of your mind. And so there are 4 verbs in these verses. The first verb is to learn. The second verb is to put off. The third verb is to renew. And the fourth verb is to put on. And I want to encourage you and me that in between put off and put on is the verb renew. And it means this is a really important verb, because he is talking about being renewed in the spirit of your mind. And this is where the put off and put on begins to really start to form in us, because it's a changing on the inside. If we're only managing external behaviors without addressing the internal mindsets, then we're going to struggle, because those internal mindsets are the spirit of our mind. That's where all this stuff, the rubber hits the road. Because I act, I talk, I think, I have attitudes based on what's on the inside of me. So all of this old man, new man, if I'm not addressing what's internal, then I'm not really addressing and making that transformation, so to speak, from the old to the new. The transformation starts in the renewing of the mind. And I think it's really powerful to think about this. I don't know if you did this, but when I was in elementary school, we used to have a seesaw. Remember, on the playground, you'd have a seesaw. And I had friends, and the longer the board, the higher you went up. And in the middle was that little pivot point, right? And I remember sometimes having, depending on the weight differential, if you had somebody that was super heavy, they were on the old put off, the old man, the put off, and maybe somebody on the other side was super light. And so when this person would push up, if they did really hard, it would and that one, or same way, the other one would fly off, and it was kind of the weighted, which one was heavier. But the thing that was the pivot point in the middle is this word renew. And this renew is the place where the pivot moves toward the new man. Put on the new man. Renew. So this word renew is interesting in the Greek, because it has, there's 2 words in the Greek that we have the word new. One is neo, and the second is kaino. And so Paul uses in this verse, Ephesians 4:23, he uses the word aneo, to again make new, neo. And the neo one has the idea of new in time. And it's like a fresh, brand new thing in time that hasn't been before. And so Paul is talking about what that looks like in this verse, the new man, new in time. But Paul also talks about renew. Don't be in Romans 12, verse 2. He says, don't be conformed to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Paul talks about renew as well in Colossians 3, verse 10. So in three very key important verses, Paul uses the word renew. And in these three verses, in Romans 12, verse 2, he uses anakaino, the second word for new. And kaino means to be new in like the quality, new in the essence. And so anakaino and ananeo are the two words for renew. And this is what happens when we renew the spirit of our mind, that there's transformation in our thinking. And we're going to talk a little bit, especially next week, what that looks like to be renewed. Because what happens is, again, if we're just doing behaviors and externals, but without addressing the internal, the spirit of our mind, then it's going to be tricky to maintain and establish and live out of authenticity. Instead, it feels like we're just kind of window dressing, if you will, putting on different clothes on a mannequin, but still a mannequin. If you don't change the mannequin, it's just a matter of clothes. And what Jesus is saying to us in these verses is let's change what's on the inside, because that's going to be the pivot point to living in the reality of the new person, the divine design, your best self that Jesus has made for us and made us to live in. So I want to thank you so much for subscribing. Make sure you hit the notification bell right there, because we have amazing content. And here's your question for this episode. Here's what I'd like to ask you. Do you, for vacation, because a lot of us think about summer and we think about summer vacation, what is your favorite vacation to take? What is your favorite? Some people like a staycation, some people like a beach, what's your favorite vacation? And here is your amazing joke at the end. So did you know that I have a broken guitar for sale and there's no strings attached? It is so stupid, right? I agree, that's a really dumb one. But next week will be lots better. Thanks again.